This next one goes way back. Another, I don't know, about another 1100 years before the reign of Khufu. And this particular story has elements that have been picked up by subsequent people. I should be fairly familiar. Khufu, at the start of his reign, began the construction of the Great Pyramid to house his body and to allow his spirit on his death to join with the imperishable stars, the circumpolar stars, the Great Bear, Egyptians called the foreleg, and be with his ancestors at his death. Now, unfortunately, there was a fly in that massive ointment because his chief architect, Hemem, who had learned everything from the legendary Imhotep, who knew how to build this pyramid and how to protect it with all the traps and passageways to protect it from thieves, was lost a crucial aspect. I say lost, he just couldn't find the papyrus spell that would protect and seal the tomb, the pyramid, for all eternity from the forces of Set. He had searched the great libraries and the great House of Life. His scribes had searched all over. They could not find it. Now, it would take a while before the pyramid would be complete, but he still needed to admit his issue to Pharaoh. Now, he was a bit wary because, you don't upset Pharaoh and tell him he's going to have a problem. But, he had to get around that. So, he petitioned Pharaoh, admitted that he couldn't find this important, crucial part of the construction of the pyramid, and asked if Pharaoh could put out messengers, any assistance, to try and find the wisest people in Egypt who might know where this secret papyrus was. Now, weeks went by. He was becoming quite a nervous wreck, but, time would hopefully come to rescue him. Word had come from one of Pharaoh's sons, Hardef, had heard of a wise man by the name of Teta. He was said to be over 100 years old, and every day would eat 100 loaves of bread, drink 100 jugs of beer and a side of beef. He was knowledgeable in all the ancient arts. Surely he would be able to help. Pharaoh accepted, yeah, okay, bring him to me with all speed to stand before me. Hardef left with troops and descended to the village where Teta was said to live. Obviously, an impressive army appearing at a village stirred a few people up, and they were all able to point them to the home of Teta, who sat outside his little hut, eating and drinking as he would do every day, oblivious to the commotion of a royal army. Hardef approached the old man, who looked in pretty good shape for his age, and for his certainly robust constitution to be able to consume that much, and told him that he has been called to stand before Pharaoh. Teta gave him a stern look, shrugged, and just calmly went off with her death back to Pharaoh with a full fanfare of a journey. Eventually, they arrive at court, and Teta, standing before Pharaoh, inclined his head very briefly. That was not quite the good thing to do, and fixed Khufu with a firm gaze. This was not how you treat your Pharaoh, but Pharaoh was aware that he needed this man, so he was willing just to let him keep his head a little longer. So, Teta, why have I not heard of you before? He asked this man. There was quiet. Teta fixed Pharaoh with a stern gaze and looked him directly in the eyes. He who is summoned comes, and I have just been summoned, therefore I am here. That was a bit insolent, to be honest. Pharaoh really was not happy, and he shook quite visibly, and the court were very on edge. But we all knew what was required, so he let it go. I have heard, Pharaoh said to him, that you are a man of great knowledge and wisdom. I have also heard that you can restore the head that has been smitten off. Teta very perceptibly just slightly inclined his head at that, as if to say yes. Pharaoh looked over to his guards and commanded, "Guard, bring me a prisoner who is condemned to death, so that Teta can show me his magic and prove his knowledge." But before the guards had even left, and even before Pharaoh had even finished the sentence, Teta interrupted him. "Pharaoh, I beg you, do not bring me a prisoner. Bring me an animal instead." That was there were gasps. This was beyond what anyone would tolerate from anybody. But Pharaoh bit his tongue and nodded to the guards to do so. Shortly, with much noise, and I would say a lot of smell, an ox was brought into the palace, into the court. This was unusual. No one would bring in an ox into here, into the sacred special place. But a guard was ordered to decapitate the ox. And so they did. The blood was spilt upon the floor, and the body left on one side of the hall, and the head was placed on the other. Silence. Teta calmly looked upon both, and he raised his staff. In this corner you can't see it, mine's there. It's a Waz staff. It's got a bit of a head like that. It's a command of power, and uttered an incantation. His voice loud and clear, and to everybody's surprise, the head of the ox started to roll across the floor to the body. It rolled and rolled, obviously throwing blood everywhere, and it swiveled and reattached to the body of the ox. There was a snort, and the ox stood up, a little shaky, but it was definitely alive and the head was definitely reattached. Pharaoh hid his surprise and his awe quite well. He wasn't going to give this up. He commanded a guard to bring in another animal. And shortly long, more noise appeared. And it was a goose. Chop. Same again. Body one side, head the other. Teta glanced at Pharaoh. You could say there was a slight smile upon his lips. And again, the magic flowed. And the head of the goose just rolled across, reattached. And there was some quacking and the goose was alive, flapping his wings. Okay, I think Pharaoh decided at that point, I think we worked this out, that he's alright. So he settled down upon his throne and says to Teta, you have proved your knowledge and your power. The reason I brought you here was that there is a spell that would protect my pyramid and protect my body for eternity. And it has been lost. Do you know where it is? Again, a magician of great stature and of great showmanship, for all magicians are, rode the silence well. I do know. It is in a flint casket at the temple of Karnak. I do not know where within the temple it is, and that the Pharaoh wasn't happy about. But I know who does. Well, who does? Who knows where this spell lives? Well, Pharaoh, the person who knows where this spell lies has not yet been born. But the boy who will find it will be born to the high priest's wife, Remenet. And it is her son that shall find it and restore the spell to you. Instantly, Pharaoh stood and called to his guards, bring me this woman, Remenet. And sure she is safe and cared for, and that her son is born. Full health, and he will find what I need for my eternal life. However, Teta said, this boy will also sit on your throne. Pharaoh froze, fear across his face. He began to order the death of Remenet. But no, Pharaoh, do not fear. For you, your sons shall first sit upon the throne. Eventually, Remenet will follow. At that, Pharaoh was pleased. At least his succession, his dynasty will continue. And true to the words of Teta, the children, the sons of Khufu, Hardef, and the three other sons, sat each upon the throne of Egypt after their father's death. The pyramid built, his tomb there, but they still rode, and to reveal the final destiny. And the son of Remenet one day did find the flint casket in the temple and the scroll. He was then to become the first pharaoh of the 5th dynasty. and he was then to sit on the throne, and it was he who then had the spell read to protect all of the pyramids of Egypt, and not just Khufu's. And so the power of that magic that protected those pyramids did endure to be the last of the 7 great wonders of the ancient world, and fulfill that promise of that spell to protect them for eternity. And they will last forever. Thank you.